This screencast is about principles, and in particular how to find a principle within the text and to write your own principle. So first of all, what's a principle? It's kind of like a rule, but it's more general than that. You can apply it in many contexts. A rule tends to be very specific to a context. So let's say, for example, in a school, you shouldn't run down the corridor. Yes, that might apply in other contexts, but it's quite specific. There's going to be other corridors in the world of work where actually you should run down them for safety, for example, in hospital if you're treating someone in an emergency. So it's a general rule-like statement, but actually it can be applied across different areas. It acts as a guide of either how to behave, what you should do, how you should act, or possibly what you should think, what you should believe. It can act as a reason, an intermediate conclusion, or a conclusion, which is why when sometimes you see should and we use that as an indication of a conclusion, it could also be a principle at the same time. So here are some examples of principles. You can see here that all of them have got the word should or should not in them. Very, very general things like we should respect other people. That applies to all contexts, at work, at home, out in the public. The principle of respect is not a specific rule, it's a principle. But then you can be more specific as in the content, so things like women should be treated equally to men, but that can be applied across work, across religion, across different countries. It's a principle because it's still not specific to a particular context. But the last one is specific to a context, schools, but actually it is a general principle because actually we're saying all schools should accept all races and religions. Now whilst in this country that may be the law, and actually in other countries it might not be the law, so to follow that principle would mean that we expect that to happen across the world. So they might ask you to find the principle, state the principle in the text. So you're going to have to look through the text to see what you can find. Look for indicator words. Obviously the words should or shouldn't or should not are an indication that there might be a rule in the text. And think, is it something that's trying to make you think something or trying to make you do something? That is what a principle does. They might ask you to write a principle, so read the text and suggest a principle from the text. So it must relate, it can't be too vague, it must relate to the context. So think about, by this stage you've probably found the main conclusion, you've probably found either the intermediate conclusion or reasons. What is the theme of the resource? So the easiest thing to do is use should or shouldn't, because actually that will give you a principle pretty much straight away. Is it telling you how to behave or how to think? So here's an example. Let's imagine you've got a resource about schools and school uniform and about how children should wear school uniform. You could write a principle, we should be smart in our appearance whilst working. So that applies in schools, but it also applies in other contexts. It applies in the workplace as well, in business. So yes, it's about schools, yes, it's about uniform, but we're actually talking about it being smart.